In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. Thought I was a real estate god. And you know when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008.
To get the multifamily, first you have to set the mindset. Nobody can take that away from you, right? Like Rod said, he might have lost the $50 million, but he had the mindset to come back even stronger. You know what they say, if you're not Dutch, you're not much. We've got Rod Khleif on the podcast today.
I have not heard that one. That's good. I like it.
Yeah, we got two Dutch immigrants just chatting, catching up. Rod, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. For the listeners who do not know your story, can you just give a little background?
Sure.
And we'll go from there?
Sure. Well, you stole my thunder. I am a Dutch immigrant. I talk about that. You know, windmills and wooden shoes. I actually have a pair of Dutch skates downstairs, and I'm in my compound here in Sarasota, Florida, and I've got kind of a wall of mementos, and I've got these Dutch skates, the kind you actually strap on your shoes. If you remember those with the wood and the metal,
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
To go on the slopes.
And hold on. I got something else here too that I'll show you in a second that ties into this. So yeah, I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother Svansha. We ended up in Denver, Colorado. Didn't have much money, I got thrown into school, found out what bullies were for the first time, and then my mom sent me to school in these. For show and tell, okay? I'm holding up wooden shoes if you're listening to this. Yeah, and these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So, I got my butt kicked occasionally. And, we struggled. My mom, we didn't have much money. I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army, and we shopped at an expired food store. We had powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk, and trust me, it sounds better than it is. And but my mom had an incredible work ethic, so she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And we always had a house full of kids, and with her babysitting money, she became a bit of an entrepreneur, and she invested in the stock market successfully in IPOs, but also invested in real estate. Her first real estate acquisition was the house right across the street from us that she bought when I was about 14 for $30,000. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that it had gone up $20,000 in value. I'm like, what? You made, this is when 20 grand was a lot of money, okay? And like, you made 20 grand, you didn't do anything? Screw college, I'm getting into real estate. So I got into real estate. I got my real estate broker's license, which you could do back then with education. I was actually a broker. I could have my own office. They got smart. Now you need some experience before you can be a broker, and I was smart enough to work for a broker. But yeah, so I got into real estate, still living at home. I made about $8,000 my first year. I made about $10,000 my second year. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some serious money. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy that taught me about mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate mechanical stuff that I talk about on my podcast, and I'm sure you talk about on your show here. And it's really all mindset and psychology. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long term. I own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got by the way, that's about $8,300 an hour for the year on a 40-hour work week. And of course, I did the math on that. And I got a head so big I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008. I lost everything. I lost conservatively $50 million in 2008 and 9. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast and at my boot camps and stuff is really the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but maybe more importantly, the mindset and psychology it took to recover from that. And it's the same process if you haven't gotten started on something, or if you're recovering from failure. And so happy to drill down on some of those strategies if you'd like, Dirk, because I think they probably add value to your listeners.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love it. I'd love to understand both how the accumulation happened, right, in getting the 2,000 homes, and then what went wrong.
Sure.
Some of the lessons.
Well, sure. No, we talk about that first instead of the mindset stuff. So I accumulated them one at a time. I'm good at systems and procedures, and every business is nothing but people and systems. And so, I set up systems to buy, I bought 200 houses in Memphis in 1 year, one at a time. I bought 500 houses in Denver. I bought 1,300 houses in Florida, but these were one-off. It wasn't like packages of houses. And, we did every sort of financing strategy. We did seller financing. We did subject to loans. We did VA finance deals, FHA finance deals. They were foreclosures back in the day that we purchased, one-on-one. And so again, it's systems and procedures. Now, why did it collapse? In 2008, I had 800 houses and several apartment complexes. It was the houses that pulled me down. So, with a house, you're paying for separate insurance, separate taxes, and every house is different. And that's important in what I'm going to explain. So in my apartment complexes, well, first of all, these houses were along the Gulf Coast of Florida, okay? All these properties. And so some of these properties had wind and flood insurance, okay? It impacts cash flow, right? It's more expensive. Florida has no state income tax, so the property taxes are higher, compared to other states. Impacts cash flow. But what killed me was the maintenance. So these were C-class houses. There's A, B, C, and D. A is the brand new stuff. D is the hood. Stay out of the hood. Okay. Trust me on that. But these were C-class. Okay. So working class, older houses, tougher demographic. They're tougher on the properties. Well, if I had a maintenance issue at one of my apartment complexes, we could stockpile parts. So, plumbing parts, electrical parts, appliance parts, door locks, things like that, window locks. So you stockpile that stuff and the maintenance guy's in and out in an hour. Well, if they had to go to one of my houses, and my houses were 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and everywhere in between. Okay. I just had along the coast here. So logistically, it was challenging as well. Well, if they had to go to one of my houses, say it's an hour away, they got to go to the house, see what's wrong, because they can't stockpile parts for every house is different. And, they can stockpile some stuff, but most of the stuff's different. Then they'd have to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account. And, that could take an hour round trip. And I don't know about you, Dirk, but when Rod's happy ass goes to Lowe's, he ends up going more than once because he forgets something. You got to go back, and it's the same thing with maintenance guys. So, what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. And again, these were C-class houses, so it was a lot of maintenance. So I never really cash flowed. And I get a lot of hate online where people are like, yeah, well, you shouldn't have over leveraged. I was at a 30% loan to value, okay, in 2008, okay? I only owed 30 cents on the dollar and I still crashed and burned. That's how crazy it was. And, the other thing was I didn't pay attention to tenant demographics back then. If they had a good job and they had good credit and they paid a deposit, and back then it was a full month's rent or more deposit, I let them rent. But what I discovered after the fact was I had a lot of contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, and that work fell off a cliff in 2008. They didn't have work, so they couldn't work. And so it was like the perfect storm. And here's what's crazy, Dirk. By the end of 2009, the value of my portfolio was upside down. So it dropped more than 70%. So anyway, it was ugly, but again, that was what happened. And again, if you'd like to chat about the strategies I utilized to come back from that, or really to have it in the first place, I'd love to drill down on that with you.
That's exactly what my next question was, Rod, because obviously most people, when something like that would happen to them, they go from, like you said, you increase your net worth by $17 million in 1 year. And as you're looking at that, you're saying, hey, everything's going good, everything's going good, everything's going good. And then all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, in a moment where it wasn't like you were over leveraged, like you said, you were only at 30% loan to value on that. You only had, that was 30%. And all of a sudden, everything starts falling apart. And then now you've got to make a comeback. What did you do to fortify your mind to be able to make a comeback? Like that?
Sure. Well, again, if you're listening and that probably doesn't compute for you, but these strategies, if you haven't started, let's say you've got a job, and unless you freaking love your job, I would tell you, don't be in the same place you are now 1 or 2 years from now. But these are the strategies you would do to get out there, start a side hustle, be it multifamily, learning that business or some other business. So these are the strategies. The first thing is, you've got to figure out exactly what it is you want and why you want it. So, I've got a boot camp coming up. We'll talk about it later. But the first thing we do at all my boot camps is goal setting on steroids. Because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? Because you've got to know what it is you want and why you want it. So Napoleon Hill calls it a burning desire. You've got to create a burning desire. So you push through fear and limiting beliefs or maybe you're comfortable, and that comfort zone's a nice warm place, but you got to create but nothing grows there, right? And you've got to create that burning desire to push out of that comfort zone. And so, like I said, the first thing we do is goal setting. And by the way, I'll tell you about a boot camp I'm having in a little bit, but if you go to my link tree, I did a goal setting workshop there. It's about an hour long, and it's at rodslinks.com, which is my link tree. And I don't sell you anything. There's none of that. There's a guide you can download. You give me an hour and I will juice you and you'll get up to speed on your goals. Here's the sad reality, Dirk. People spend more time planning a freaking Christmas party than they do designing their lives. This is designing your life, okay? Doing your goals. And so, let me help you guide you through that if you like. If you've got a spouse, have them do it. If you've got a child that's over 10 years old, have them do it. But it starts with goals because you got to create that burning desire. And when you've got that burning desire, even if you've only got average ability, you will be successful. So, you find what you love, you focus on that, you find your mission and purpose in life. And when you want success as bad as you want to breathe because you've done your goals, then you're not going to be average. And so you do your goals. You figure out why your goals are a must. You write down, the things you're going to do towards those goals. And I walk you through all of this, by the way, at that session if you want to do it with me. But regardless, you need to do it. See, when you do your goals, it triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And that's that filter that filters out all the noise when you're going through life. And the best example of this at work is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them, and then you buy the car and you see them everywhere. Well, that's your reticular activating system, and that's what you trigger when you do your goals, and it guides you towards achieving your goals. So that's why writing them down are so important. The next thing is you got to make a decision, Dirk. And I don't mean dip your toe in the water. I don't mean 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I mean, it's done. Okay. And when you make a decision, you're committed. And then once you're committed, you're like a train on a track. If you just are interested, quote unquote, you're going to get knocked off track. And so, motivation will get you started, but commitment is what brings you home. And so, you've got to make a real decision. And I will tell you, a great analogy for a decision. In fact, the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. Like, for example, if you're going to attack the island, you burn your ships because you're taking their damn ships home. That's a decision. It's done. Okay. There's no retreat, right? So
Cortez, baby, Cortez.
That's right. That's a decision. The next piece is you got to take the first step. And for me, when I lost everything, I just had, I hid under a rock for a few months feeling sorry for myself because I thought I was set for life. And then I just said, okay, enough, reassociated with my goals, decided, enough is enough. I'm going to get going again. And then I got back into it. And sometimes that first step can be the scariest step of your life, but the most important step. Okay. And like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But that's a very important step. And the thing to remember here is, a lot of analytical people, have to see the whole pathway. And so they never move. And I want to give you an analogy, okay? You can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing 30, 40 feet in front of you, but you can make it. You may have some obstacles, but other people have done it before you, but you've got to get started. I see it with my students. I call it the law of the first deal. I have a coaching program and my students are killing it. Like I told you before we started recording, they own I believe well over 250,000 units. We can't even keep track anymore. And something I'm very proud of, by the way. But a lot of times I'll see one and they'll be like, one of my students will be like, man, it's been 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, sometimes 8 months. They haven't got a deal yet. And I'm like kicking them in the butt. Keep going. It's okay. Keep going. And then they get one. And next thing you know, they have 3. I'm like, what the heck just happened? Well, what happened was they realized the only thing holding them back was their perception that anything is holding them back. It was all between their ears. And so, the key is to take that first step and not have any regrets. And on the note of regrets, there was this nurse in Australia, as she was a hospice nurse. So she took care of patients when they were about to die. And her name was Bronnie Ware. And she asked her patients this question, Dirk, and it was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. And it's something like The 5 Regrets of Dying. And you know what the number one regret was? It was not living the life I could have lived, living somebody else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Guys, don't fear failure. Fear that, okay? Fear that regret. And which brings me to the next piece, which is fear and limiting beliefs. I told you about, getting thrown into school and going to show and tell with those leather shorts and wooden shoes and getting my butt kicked regularly. And, and I didn't, and that coupled with this story I tell at my boot camp about, being on the playground, getting humiliated by this little girl that I had a crush on, caused me to believe that I wasn't good enough, and a lot of people have these negative belief systems. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I mean, you have all these belief systems. And there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS, but we believe they're real. And so, it's really important to recognize if you have any of these and deal with them. I don't have enough money. Because most of them have no basis in fact. And so if you know that you have one of these belief systems, I would encourage you to drag it out into the daylight, look at it with your adult rational mind, and recognize that it's BS, okay? And if you do that enough, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in front of, 10 kids in a classroom, and now I speak in front of thousands of people a year, typically in flip-flops, because I've pushed past that, need to prove that I'm good enough. I know I'm good enough. And so, again, if you have one of those, drag it out in the daylight. And then fear. Let's talk about fear. What is fear? False evidence appearing real? Definitely. F everything and run. For a lot of people, that's it. But, I like to think it's face everything and rise. Everybody feels fear. We achievers call it stress, but it's fear. And, the successful people push through in spite of it. And action mitigates fear. And so, that's the next one. The next one is focus. The most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. So I have a podcast. I'm blessed to say it's the largest commercial real estate podcast really in the world. I don't know, I think 25 million downloads, which in today's day and age doesn't sound like a lot, but for my little niche, it's pretty good. And I bring that up because I listen to two podcasts, okay? I listen to Joe Rogan, and I listen to Tim Ferriss, okay? I try to stay on both sides of the aisle. I'm definitely on one side, but the side that just won, thank God. But we won't go down that path. But the bottom line is I do listen to Tim Ferriss as well, and a very intelligent, brilliant conversation. And the reason I bring that up is both of those guys get like 25 million downloads a week or something like that. It's crazy. They're huge. But anyway, so on Tim Ferriss's show, he interviews the best of the best in the world, okay? The best athletes, like Michael Phelps, the swimmer, NFL players, NBA players, actors like Jamie Foxx, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Arnold, billionaires like Ray Dalio, heads of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg. And he deconstructs their success. It's a fascinating conversation. And one of the things I noticed is that almost all of these world-class people meditate. And what does meditation enhance? Focus, right? Wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. And whatever you focus on gets larger. I get people that call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money that debt's irrelevant is the right question, okay? They asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace, right? It's focus. Focus is very, very important. I remember, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've discovered I've built 29 businesses so far in my career, which is mind-numbing to me when I did the count on it. But, there was a time I was doing several things at once. And by the way, when they fail, I call them seminars, okay? When I have a failure, I call it a seminar. That was a $50 million seminar. It was a really expensive seminar, but yeah, that was a seminar. And, and out of these 29 businesses, several were tens of millions of dollars. I've got a couple right now that are, but most were spectacular flaming seminars, right? But see, here's the thing. We fail our way to success. And I want to talk about that here in a second, but it's super important that back to focus for a minute. I was doing multiple things at the same time. I had frozen yogurt shops, carpet cleaning business. I was flipping houses, and everything suffered because I was diluting my focus. So again, focus is power, guys, and it's super important that you minimize distractions. Like social media. I don't know about you, but, I'll be watching a Netflix thing, scrolling through social media, which kills your focus, okay? Because your brain's making these little micro decisions. horrible for your focus. Another reason you shouldn't have any screen time before you go to bed, because it messes with your sleep patterns. But focus is super important. And then I've just got a couple more here. One of them, next one is playing to your strengths. Okay. A lot of people tell you to build your weaknesses. Big mistake, especially like in my business, the multifamily real estate business. So I teach people how to buy apartment complexes and whatnot. But and that's a team sport. So there's multiple hats you can wear. There could be somebody that finds the deals, evaluates the deals, underwrites them, somebody that raises the money, someone that does the asset management, like a construction, somebody's got some construction experience or management experience. There's all these different hats you can wear. And I tell people, play to your strengths and hire a line or partner for your weaknesses. Why? Because your strengths are your greatest assets. Don't try to maximize your weaknesses. You're going to get successful much faster when you play to your strengths. And why? First of all, you're going to love what you do. And you never work another day in your life when you love what you do, and work is play, right? And I'll tell you, that lends itself to something else as well. But some of the best partnerships I see in my business, again, buying apartment complexes, is someone that's analytical partnered with someone that's like introverted, and analytical partnered with somebody that's extroverted. So they've got, you've got the numbers, because my business is empirical. It's a lot of numbers, but it's also, relationships. And so, figure out what your strengths are, play to those. And then you're in the zone, you're in the quan, like in the movie Jerry Maguire. You're where you need to be, and living your best life. And when you love what you do, because you're playing to your strengths, you're passionate as well. And passion is required to influence people. And in anything you do, if you're passionate, people want to be around you. And again, that doing what you're good at, brings about that passion and then enhances your ability to influence people, to invest with you, to partner with you, to work with you. And so, again, play to your strengths. It's super important. And that passion, again, when you're playing to your strengths, that's the fuel as well. So don't settle. Don't play small. Don't have regrets like, that nurse in Australia discovered. And that passion breeds creativity and innovation. It minimizes and eliminates fear. So play to your strengths. I think the last piece here, I know I've been rambling. I'll get off my soapbox in just a sec, Dirk. I got one more piece here.
I love it.
Okay. All right. Good. I was feeling bad. I was just going blabbering on and on, but it's your peer group. Okay. You've heard the adage, who you hang out with is who you become. You're the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with. It's absolutely accurate. Okay. And, here's the problem. Most people default to peers that they went to school with or that they work with. And those people may have their own limiting beliefs and their own fears, or they may be comfortable, and they will hold you back out of their love for you, or their fear of feeling less than if you succeed, or, feeling left behind if you succeed. And so you have to proactively choose who you hang out with. You want to be around people that think what you think is hard is easy, okay? And because a rising tide lifts all ships. There's a reason my coaching program is so freaking successful, is because most of those 250,000 units that they've bought over the last 7 years under my tutelage have done together between warriors. That's what I call my coaching students, my warriors. So it's that peer group. And so you got to get in a group like that, guys. You got to get around people that want more out of life. Go to your local meetup groups. Get around people, that want more. And that's the secret to success. It really is. And you don't want to be around people that'll hold you back out of fear. And sometimes it's family. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, love your family, but proactively choose your peers. Okay. If you're playing tennis with somebody, do you want to play tennis with somebody that's better than you or worse than you? I mean, you know the answer. There was one more piece. I want to talk about failure. I just remembered. So again, we fail our way to success, guys. I've had 29 businesses. Okay. Most have been spectacular flaming seminars, okay? Failures. And we fail our way to success. And that's okay. I mean, I lost 50 million and I came back. And big deal. We survive, we pick ourselves back up, we get back on the wagon here. And I'm going to tell you, problems are a gift. Feedback, negative feedback is actually a gift. That's the only way you improve. The only people that don't have problems are 6 feet underground. I met the billionaire owner of Spanx. Her name's Sarah Blakely. That's what the women wear under their clothes to hold everything together. Beautiful human being. She started with $5,000 and she's a billionaire. She's in Forbes. Beautiful human being. Anyway, I met her at a mastermind that I was at, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, "What have you failed at this week?" And I thought, what an awesome freaking question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. And so I love that one. But anyway, those are the strategies for success. And there's a lot more, and I get into a lot more in my boot camps. But I'll tell you, there is the last piece, and that's gratitude. Okay. I at my live event, I do a gratitude exercise. I don't have time at my virtual event, which is the one that's coming up, but gratitude is the most important foundational emotion we have available to us. It makes us stronger when we face adversity, strengthens our immune system, lowers our blood pressure, makes our heart stronger, brings us closer to our spirituality, and it's how you manifest everything you want in your life. That you do it through gratitude. Now, you could call it prayer if you like, and that's fine. But, most mornings I'll sit in my recliner in my office. I've got my vision boards there, and I'll just close my eyes and I'll be grateful for the people I love in my life, my students, my foundation, things like that. And I'll just be grateful for that. But then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And that's a secret, guys, okay? I've gotten emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I may have lost a few of you analytical ones on that one, but this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got it back. So ignore it at your peril is what I will tell you, because it freaking works. Okay. And, use gratitude, to get what you want in life. And I will tell you, if you do my goal setting workshop, I'll share my planner pictures and my vision boards that I have. So I'll look at my vision boards and I'll visualize this stuff. And I've gotten almost everything on those lists because I manifest it through gratitude. That's it. And I know I keep saying that's the last one. I do have one more.
Come on, give us the bonus.
I got you. This is the bonus one. So, I lived in Denver for 30 years, but I always knew I wanted to live on the beach. And of course, there's no beach in Denver. And I would visualize living on the beach, okay? And 20 years later, I built this incredible, what's now about a $25 million mansion on the beach. Which was unthinkable when I was 18. But I manifested it. I made it happen. But here's the piece here. 2 months after I moved in, and just to describe this place, okay, 10,000 square feet. I owned the beach on one side, and I had my boat houses on the backside. It was a slice through an island. It was called a Gulf to Bay home. Okay, so I had beach on one side, boat houses on the backside, and 10,000 square foot place, giant spiral staircase up through the middle of the house, giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Pools and magazines. On the second floor, I had wine cellar, elevators. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the spiral staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. So 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove to the freaking world I was good enough. I mean, if that didn't do it, forget it. Okay. And so it's just 2 months after I moved in. I worked for this thing for 20 years, and I'm looking up there. My family's inside sleeping. I had all the toys. I had the boats and the jet skis. I had the Maserati, Mercedes, all the stupid shit I thought was important. And I'm looking up at this thing 2 months after I moved in, and I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. I was like, holy crap. It hit me like a wave. And there's a message in this, and that is, you need goals. You got to have them, but it's never about the goals. The goals are what drive you. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat, right? You got to have the goals, but I didn't know what I was going to do next. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. I didn't have a vision for the future. I didn't know what I was going to do next. So if you're going to achieve a big goal, make sure you got other stuff lined up behind it so that doesn't hit you. The second thing was, it's never about the goals. It's about happiness comes from progress and growth. And if you do my goal setting workshop at Rod's links, you do that goal setting workshop, or better yet, you come to my boot camp and do it with me live. The last piece is a planning session. where I teach you a weekly planning session. And part of that planning session is to celebrate what you got done the week before. Because even if you had setbacks or you got delayed, if you celebrate, even acknowledge any improvement or anything you did to progress, you'll be happy, because happiness comes from progress. So that was the second piece. But the big piece, Dirk, was I was totally focused on Rod. Rod. Show the world I matter. Show the world I'm good enough. Blah, blah, blah. And that's the year. And when I got depressed, I'm like, I got to do something with this. So I went and saw Tony Robbins, who I highly recommend you see if you have a chance. And that was 27 years ago, and found out he fed families for the holidays. So I'm like, man, that's a great idea. So I called my brother. I was going to visit him for Thanksgiving in Denver. I said, bro, let's feed 5 families. So he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help. We went, had a lot of fun buying frozen turkeys and bought baskets of food and toys if they had kids. It was just a blast. The third family changed my life, Dirk. We go up to this crappy one bedroom row house. It was a piece of crap. There was a Hispanic woman in there with 5 kids. So she comes out, she sees the stuff on the porch that we bought. She starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I was hooked. And I'm blessed to say, and please know there's no ego in this. There's a big message in this. I'm blessed to say in the last 27 years, I've fed well over 150,000 children here in my area, at-risk children, for the holidays. And I provided tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local children that don't even have the basic supplies for school. Don't get me started on that. And then I provided thousands and thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for officers to keep in their vehicles if they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation. And the reason I bring this up is not to brag. The reason I bring this up is Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment, okay? You see, I had achieved, but I was unfulfilled. And achievement's a science. If you want to learn how to buy apartment complexes, get your butt to my boot camp. I've got one coming up. I'm going to give you a code. You can come for $97 if you use Dirk's name to come for $97 for 2 days of training. I don't sell anything there. That's a science. I'll give you the blueprint. You just got to go do it, okay? That's a science. But fulfillment is an art, okay? You got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's the elderly or the environment or animals or whatever it is. You got to give back right now. Okay. Now don't say, oh, well, you had money. That's why you gave back. You want money? Give back. The money will come faster. Trust me. That's how God works. That's how the universe works. You give, you receive tenfold, 100-fold. So give back, immediately. And that's the secret I want to share with you here, because then you're fulfilled. Okay. You're not just achieving. You're also fulfilled. Anyway, now I'll drop the mic.
I love it, Rod.
Thanks.
And a mic drop it is. I for the listeners who are like, hey, I thought you were bringing on a multifamily guy. You can see what happens. To get the multifamily, first you have to set the mindset. And that's why we just spent the last, 15 minutes talking through that, the importance of setting the mindset, right? Because nobody can take that away from you, right? Like Rod said, he might have lost the $50 million, but he had the mindset to come back even stronger. And so before you can go and build your dreams in what we'll call the achievement sector, and that'll bring some fulfillment, you have to get the mindset right. And Rod, thank you for dropping all those bombs.
No, it's 80% of it, man. It's 80% of it. Yeah. I will tell you, it's not the mechanical. If you've got the mindset, you'll push through in spite of anything. And yeah, I'll teach you the mechanical. Come to my boot camp. It's January 25th and 26th. It's 2 days. I don't sell anything there. It's just training. And the price is 3 times this now. But if you go to multifamilybootcamp.com. The price is like $300 now, but if you use the code DIRK when you check out, DIRK, when you check out, you come for $97. So again, multifamilybootcamp.com. When you check out, use the code DIRK and you come for $97. I don't sell anything there.
All virtual.
Tell me
it's all virtual. It's all
yeah.
virtual.
Oh, that's right. It's virtual. It's online. You do it at home in your underwear. Okay. So no excuses. Okay. It's 97 freaking bucks. Okay. And I don't sell anything. So don't tell me your excuse. Okay. And it includes my deal evaluator software, which is worth a ton of money, and my document library, which I spent tens of thousands of dollars compiling. So, you get that as well. And if you come and you don't love it, and I don't mean like it, I mean love it, I'll give you your $97 back. No problem. And you can keep the bonuses. But the point is, don't be in the same place you are a year or two from now wishing you'd done something. We're actually, I will tell you, Dirk, I know we are heading into incredible opportunity. There's some things Trump cannot fix, and that's the state of the multifamily business right now, because a lot of operators got adjustable rate debt and they are struggling, and there's going to be exponential deals, but you got to get up to speed. I think there's going to be incredible opportunity. I know there's going to be incredible opportunity this year and next year to buy assets at discounts. And so, if you're interested in multifamily, come see me. If not, pick something else, because, there's lots of ways to make money. There's a lot of baby boomers retiring that have businesses. You can buy businesses. You can do single family, but single family always lends itself to multifamily. You can start with houses, but you're ultimately going to get into multifamily. That's what everybody does, just for scale. So, yeah.
The only thing you can't keep doing is what you've already done. If you keep doing what you've already been doing, nothing will change for you. So I agree with you. Whether it's, I highly suggest for spending the $97 and the time to go and see what Rod has to offer there. But Rod, I want to talk about specifically why multifamily.
Sure.
Why multifamily? Why do you like the asset class? And where do you see the opportunities coming in 2025, 2026?
No, good question. Well, listen, I've owned 2,000 houses. Okay. So to give you the disparity between single family and multifamily, I'm fairly qualified, right? I'll never buy another house for investment as long as I live. Why? Because it's the same amount of work to buy a 10 unit, a 20 unit, or a 30 unit. And you get scale much faster. Here's the other thing. If you have a house and it's vacant, you're 100% vacant. If you have a 10 unit and you have 2 or 3 units empty, you're probably still breaking even. Okay. So they're safer. Multifamily is safer than single family. Okay. So that's number one. The financing, candidly, can be easier because if you're buying houses, they're looking at your personal debt to income ratio. So there are limits to how far you can go with that. And there's like Fannie Mae has, I think, a limit of 10 loans to buy houses. Now they've got a great 5% down program if you move in, but you're going to pay more than that as an investment. But see, if you buy commercial property, so commercial real estate is 5 units or larger. Residential is a single family, duplex, triplex, fourplex. If you're Northeast, it's 2 family, 3 family, 4 family. That's what they call them. And you can get residential financing, which is fantastic financing. Okay. Don't get me wrong. It's 30-year fixed financing, but if you move in and live there, but you can't get scale. Okay. You get scale with multifamily, and when you buy commercial, you get scale with commercial multifamily, which is 5 units or higher. So, and when you buy commercial multifamily, the bank is looking at the property's ability to service the debt. Okay. They don't care about your debt to income. They want to know that if they end up taking that property back, that the property can pay their debt payments. Okay. It's called the debt service coverage ratio. And, that's what they look at. So, it's easier to qualify that way if the property cash flows. Secondly,
Rod, let's quickly talk before we move on to second. Why does scale matter? Talk to us a little bit. Why does scale matter in multifamily?
Well, I guess it's greed, I suppose you could call it. Most people want to build enough scale so they can retire and live the life they want to live. It takes much longer and it's much harder to do it one house at a time. Ask me how I know. In fact, I have t-shirts that say #ask me how I know, because I've made every freaking mistake you can make. And one of my students, because I'm like, don't do that. Ask me how I know. And I say that numerous times in my boot camp. And one of my students got me that shirt, #ask me how I know. So now we give them away. Anyway, as I digress, but why not do it easier and faster? You want to build that. Exactly. You want to build that cash flow. That's the name of the game. My podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. By the way, if you want to check it out, the link is, it's also at rodslinks.com, but you can just do rodspodcast.com. And that's the link to my podcast. I hope you'll check it out because, it's a lot of fun. I know you enjoy it as much as I do, doing this podcasting. We get so much love and feedback. But that's the reason. You just build faster and you get to your end goal faster, which is, the ability to ultimately retire and replace your income, right? Or massively eclipse your income.
Exactly. And you said it earlier. You said that it takes just as much time to do a small deal as it does a big deal. And so you might as well do a big deal, and then at scale, you have now numbers where if you make small incremental improvements, the way that these that these apartments, these multifamily, these commercial properties are valued, small incremental improvements both in increasing rents and decreasing your operating expenses, those have a huge
Let me give you an
impact
example.
in
Let me
value.
give you an example
Yes.
of that dynamic right there. So I've got a 296 unit asset in San Antonio. We call them assets. That's the nomenclature. You got to learn the verbiage, okay? You come to my boot camp, you get a whole glossary of terms that you need to learn. But that 296 unit, I had a manager that did a fire inspection, because you got to check the fire extinguishers and the smoke detectors, make sure everything's good to protect your residents. And she discovered, I think 60 pets that we didn't know about. And we love pets. And I get hate for this whenever I talk about this online, you greedy bastard charging for pets. But yeah, so we're like, hey, you can keep the pet, but you're going to pay 25 bucks a month. You're going to pay 25 bucks a month to have that pet. That was a 500, well, let me do the math here. I'm pretty sure it was $500,000 increase in value. 1 second. Let me just do the math. So let me tell you how to do it. Yeah. Let me show you how to do it. Yeah, so you take that $25 times 60 people, right? That's 1,500. Then you annualize it. So times 12, right? And at that time, that's $18,000. At that time, that property was at a 4 cap, like a 4% capitalization rate, which is what you use to determine value. So I divide that by 0.04. That's a $450,000 instant increase in value by charging $25 pet rent. I'll give you another example. That same property, we painted numbers in the parking spaces so people could reserve a parking space in front of their unit. So they could reserve it. It's right there. We said, hey, it's first come, first serve. We even had the towing company pay to paint it so they could have a towing contract if people had run down cars they didn't remove. So we didn't even pay for it. We had 100 people take it. Okay, let me do the math on that for you. So 100 times 25 times 12, right? Remember, we're annualizing it. That's 30,000. Divide that by a 4 cap. That was a $750,000 increase in value for charging for parking spaces. That's why we love this business. Okay, I'll give you one more extreme. I'll give you one more extreme example. I have a 101 unit in Dayton, Ohio. It's actually in Beaver Creek, Ohio, which is a wealthy suburb of Dayton. And 101 units. A few months after we bought it, got destroyed by a tornado. And I mean destroyed. Okay, all 101 families had to move. I was there the next day. And true story, there was a woman pulling her clothes out because they had to turn the utilities off, water, power, everything off. Nobody got killed, thank God. 2 people had to have surgery. No children got hurt, thank God. But I was talking to her and I said, were you here when it happened? And she said, yes. She said, my son was up in his bedroom and his phone went off, thank God. By the time he came down to wake me up, his bedroom was gone. And I looked up and his bedroom was gone. Boom. So he would have died for sure. But anyway, the story is, we were able to rebuild that place and get, I don't know, 6 to 650 rent increases on 101 units. That was a $10 to $12 million increase in value on 101 units. Okay. That's why we love this business. So that's obviously an anomaly, that last example. But any improvement to that net income is an exponential improvement to the value, which is why we love commercial real estate. You can't do that with residential multifamily. Like if you buy a fourplex, you can only get the value that the comparable sales are going for. So you can't ramp the value because it's not based on the income. It's based on the comparable sales. With commercial real estate, it's based on the income, which you have the ability to improve. And it's called value add. You're making a value add purchase. So.
Yeah. And that circles back to what you were saying earlier, where some of the best partnerships within the Warrior Group are people who have, let's say, the extrovert who's creative, building relationships, and the people running analytics. Right. Real estate is a game of both numbers and creativity, right? And you can see with creativity, you can really increase value. Other ways that we do it, right, is you can add, let's say there's additional space that you have in your apartments. You can now add storage. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You knew exactly where we're going. Yeah. So let's say it costs you $50,000 to build a couple storage buildings, but you're renting them out for $75 per storage. You're talking a similar thing where you're adding hundreds of thousands of dollars of value by looking at it creatively, solving problems creatively, and then using the numbers to increase the value. So I love it. I think that answers the scale question substantially, right? And to circle back, it's just as hard to do a small deal. It takes just as much time to do a small deal as it does a big deal. Yeah. Rod, before I wanted you to talk about the scale part, you were going to say number 2, the second reason you love the multifamily. What was that?
Oh boy. Scale, safety.
Yep.
Okay, I
Yep.
lost everything because I was in single family. I even lost the apartment complexes that I owned back then because I'd cross collateralized them with packages of houses. So I lost everything. So that's why I'll never do another single family as an investment. I mean, I'll have second, third, fourth home for me maybe, but not investment. It's just safer. Multifamily is safer. My multifamily would have survived the crash of '08 and 9 if I hadn't cross collateralized it. Yeah, it pulled back about 11%, but I could have easily survived if I hadn't done that. So, that was a real eye opener for me. And that's the reason I started my podcast, to share with people that if you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do multifamily, don't do single family. It's much safer.
Yeah, 100%. Another piece that we didn't necessarily touch on when you get to the larger commercial side, you also have additional financing options. So when you start incorporating, for example, HUD financing into a project or into something, then all of a sudden that opens up a lot of doors there. That's where you can get a 35-year loan that's amortized over 35
those are
years,
hard to
right?
get, though. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of work. They take 6 months to get. I mean, they're fantastic loans, okay, because they're
Yep.
fixed rate and they're 35-year. I mean, they're fantastic. A lot of regulatory constraints. I personally have not done one, but I've got students that are doing them. I've got a lot of friends in the business that have done them, but those are harder. But the other piece, though, in the financing is you can get non-conforming. I'm sorry, you get conforming debt where you're not on the hook if they foreclose. They can't come after you personally. They only get the property.
Yeah, non-recourse.
Non-recourse,
Exactly.
it's called.
Non-recourse,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep.
Non-recourse. Sorry,
Yep.
my brain's a little wiped already.
No, we're
Yeah.
rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
So, Rod, the other question I have for you on that, as far as just today, pivoting to like today, what's happening, one of the reasons why opportunity is coming is because the cost of interest rates, the cost of capital has substantially increased. What's your take on, as 2024 ended, the Fed starts cutting their rates and then the 10-year treasury skyrockets. What's your take on that?
I wish I knew the answer to that. It makes no sense. I'm praying that when Trump is inaugurated and gets his arms around this thing, that starts to stabilize, because 10-year is still crazy. It's affecting our ability to sell a couple of distressed assets that my ex-partner is in. So,
Yep.
it is a little crazy. It doesn't make much sense. I don't have an answer, candidly. I think things are still volatile. I do believe we are in a precarious financial situation in this country. I do. And I'm hoping that Trump can prevent, a big pullback. But I think we're due for a recalibration. I don't know if I had an economist here at my podcast, and he told me something that blew my mind, and that is, in the last 4 years, we have created 80% of the U.S. currency in circulation right now. I mean, digital, obviously, but up to 2020, only 20% of the money supply was there.
Yeah, M2.
We've added another 80%, and we wonder why there's inflation, okay? And so, I don't think the Fed can fix it. And so I think and our debt, don't get me started on our national debt. I mean, it's insane. And so, I think we could really have a reckoning coming, but with that, of course, comes an incredible opportunity. So I don't look at it as something to be afraid of. I look at it as something to prepare for and think about how you're going to capitalize on if we do have a pullback, a significant pullback, recession. And so, with crisis comes opportunity, and that's when exponential money is made. So don't get scared, get excited.
Yeah, get excited, get ready,
Yeah.
sharpen the saw.
Right.
Do you see some of the opportunity when you talk about opportunity coming up in 2025? Do you see that being exactly the opportunity where people have notes coming due and they just do not cash flow at the current interest?
No, that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on. We've seen interest rates go from 3.5 to 9. I mean, that'll kill anything. I mean, that'll kill an asset, and that's what's happening. And the lenders, there's a catchphrase called "extend and pretend." That's what the lenders are doing. They're extending these loans. They're doing deferrals. They're doing loan modifications. But at some point, that piper is going to get paid, and I think it's going to happen this year and next. And we've got, I don't know what the number is. I think it's $1 trillion or more in debt that's due and or coming due this year. And, those people either have to sell or refinance. Well, sales are way down. They're down 90% right now. Refinancing is very difficult because you have to meet those debt service coverage requirements, and you have to pay for rate capitalization or rate caps where, you pay so the rate doesn't go up more than a few points during the term of the loan. And those rate caps, I can tell you, $100 million rate cap 3 years ago for 3% was $27,000. 100 million was $27,000. 3% 3 years. It's 2020. Sorry, 4 years ago was 3%. So the rate wouldn't go up more than 3% over 3 years. 27,000. That same rate cap for 1 year. Last time I checked, it was 8 or 9 months ago. Was 2.7 million. Okay, people don't have that kind of money. So again, there's a reckoning coming, but incredible opportunity. So. Listen, I'm about out of time, brother. I apologize.
No problem. No,
Okay.
I know we're right there at the time. But Rod, I just want to finish out. So we've got that boot camp coming up.
Yeah.
Give me the date again.
Yeah,
on
it's
that boot camp,
January
that virtual
25th
boot
and
camp.
26th. It's virtual. You can do it at home, and it's live. I'll have 3 panels each day to answer your questions. I'll probably have 3 billion represented by the panelists. They're all my students to answer your questions. We go through every aspect of the business, picking a market, putting your team together, evaluating the market, finding deals, evaluating deals, underwriting those deals, financing those deals, raising all the money you need for them, syndication, joint venture, property management, you name it. It's drinking through a fire hose. I'm just going to tell you, bring your A game. Okay. But I don't sell anything there. I also spend time on mindset. There's a reason my students are so freaking successful. They actually take action with what they learn. And so if you go to multifamilybootcamp.com, you'll see the price is $297. Ignore that. Just when you check out, use the code DIRK, and you can come for $97. And you also get the deal evaluator software and my document library, which are worth thousands. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer, okay? And I can promise you'll be glad you came. You'll leave that second day so juiced you'll be coming out of your skin. So I hope I see you there. And I appreciate you having me on, brother. This has been a lot of fun, although I've done all the talking. But that's what they say. That's in Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Ask questions, let them do all the talking. They think it's the greatest conversation they ever had. So that's what I think.
And so do we, Rod. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the gold nuggets you dropped for us. Go and check that out. We'll put all the links in the show notes. We'll put where you can follow Rod, his podcast, everything you need to know. Rod, thank you for coming on. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you.
And can't wait to stay
all
connected.
Right. Take care, brother. Take care.
All right, guys. With that, we'll see you on the next one.